It's 9:26 and it's the Level 1 news. And today's breakdown is going to be technology and business news. Although business first and then technology. And then Fridays is going to be nonsense and chaos.
It's kind of mixed up. I mean, does anything happen in the tech world that isn't business related ultimately?
Ultimately, I mean, that's usually the context that you get here. Our headline story, of course.
Well, that's a good argument. Not really business related, but certainly a knock-on effect. Right.
Well, I mean, there is a business relationship with our headline story, which is the Linux Code of Conduct.
This is probably the biggest story of the week if you're into Linux at all, and certainly maybe the most controversial.
Yes, but highly controversial. A lot of people are freaking out, but I don't know that there's a reason to freak out yet.
I think there might be a reason to freak out.
It's like how this is going to go. Like how this is likely to go is probably reason to freak out.
Well, it follows a pattern because already they've gone after at least one guy who he's a maintainer in one of the parts of the networking of some kind of Linux distribution, and they have said that he must be removed because he is a rape apologist based on what he said on Twitter.
But the stuff that he said on Twitter, I read it. I didn't get that from it.
It doesn't matter what he said. If he quoted, "I apologize on behalf of all rapists," it shouldn't matter. Because you got to think about, this is the cycle. The cycle is your entity is intolerant. You must make changes to tolerate us. And then they move in. And then the first thing they do, we do not want to tolerate this guy. He must be removed.
Well, that seems like that's against the thing that they said that they were going to do.
Gosh, does it? So the story is, if you haven't been following it, there is this, I forget the girl's name. Ada is her middle name, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
So she's championing this, the end of meritocracy in Linux. It's too male, it's too white, and there's too much emphasis on skill rather than...
We've seen what an operating system is like without programmer skill. It's not pretty.
But it's well known that Linus Torvalds, being the avatar of all the Linux community,
gentle patriarch,
bunch of assholes, unbearable people, and maybe right a lot of the time, but also assholes 100% of the time.
It's like they're the code programmer versions of Dr. House.
And very, very bad at human relations. Shockingly bad.
I would say just manners.
And probably not people you want to be around most of the time. But in some cases, not all cases, you can be an asshole without being a genius. But in a lot of cases, or enough, very effective.
Yeah.
And
like Dr. House.
That's what it comes down to, is...
Who's a fictional character.
It's the most secure operating system. I think you could say that objectively, all right? It runs the internet. You can say that objectively.
It's on a lot of web servers.
It's free, and so it's the infrastructure of, if we're ever going to have any kind of free internet, it has to be this or something like it. And now we're turning over control to sort of a cabal of uninitiated, unskilled people.
Well, the code of conduct it's sort of open-ended and it's sort of non-specific and seems to want to involve agendas and ideas that are orthogonal to the project itself. So to speak directly to your point about, running the infrastructure of the internet, I suppose Linus Torvalds was a flat earther, but, and he was an even more gifted programmer than he is. Is the fact that he's a flat earther, does that diminish his technological prowess in any way? Does being a flat earther have anything to do with the creation of critical code infrastructure for the internet and whatever? And more especially if he kept that to himself, like if he didn't say anything about it and did not, it's like, by the way, I'm going to give you this code. Let me tell you about the wonders of the flat earth.
I mean, as long as he understood time zones and didn't discount that as part of the flat earth. Then,
time zones are fine.
But yeah, and then just replace flat earth with rape apology. And
then all of a sudden it's toxic.
You find the reason that this is a problem, and that is You don't, and I've seen several really good posts from severely autistic people who are like, listen, you want a minority? It's me. I can't even go to McDonald's. I break down in any kind of situation like that. I'm a freak. I can't deal with the world. But in this community, that never mattered because no one asked me anything about that. All that mattered was that I was contributing clean code and accomplishing a goal. And you cannot take this away from me. So here we've got this idea of a code of merit, and this group is directly opposed to merit measuring anything. They say that the meritocracy is the toxicity.
Yeah, the code of merit has been put forth as sort of an alternative to as a kind of alternative to the code of conduct. And the thing that I like about the code of merit, I mean, I'm not saying it's the answer, but the thing that I like about the code of merit is that it's focused around the project. Because I think, Newton, who invented calculus, was a little bit of an asshole. He was kind of self-obsessed, and he was kind of condescending and dealt with you very, very abrasively. If you questioned him with genuine curiosity, he would often take it as you're trying to get one over on him or whatever, at least from historical accounts. And he was like super pissed off at Leibniz because he thought Leibniz had stolen calculus from him. And so I think that the invention of calculus and whatever personal problems that Newton might have had, I think those are different things. And I think that the knowledge, the calculus on its own, is not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It's just knowledge. And if we buy into this kind of thing, don't we have to retroactively credit Leibniz with the creation of calculus because Newton was an asshole?
Well, there's no question. The Linux community are just, God, they're unbearable. And there's all this, it's funny because usually people brag in terms of sports and things like that. Oh God, the Linux community. and so that it's been proven that those defects in people don't affect the product. In fact, they might sharpen the edges and make it better.
I like George Carlin. George Carlin's quote, I think, puts it most succinctly, and that is, political correctness is fascism disguised as politeness. And there's a lot in there I can agree with.
There certainly are, there's something to be said that community should probably move more toward not being as toxic as they are. But can you do that at the point of a gun? And I would argue that you cannot. You got to want to change.
I kind of want people that are racist to use racist language so that I know that they're racist.
I mean, absolutely. So it seems like a dark thing, and
I kind of want to know if Linus is a flat earther before I start taking his advice on latitudinal and longitudinal calculations for my GPS app.
How great would it be if he really was? That would be fantastic. Because a lot of people would just trust him on that and go with it.
I wanted to take it even one step further and be like, all right, now imagine instead of Linus Torvalds, it's Alex Jones. It's like you didn't know. Like it's the same guy. Like Alex Jones is doing his Alex Jones thing, but when he's off the Alex Jones clock, he's sitting over here working on, Captain Programmer thing, and he keeps those things separate. Like he's at work, he's got his work face on, doesn't bring up his Alex Jones stuff.
I thought you meant he was a flat earther, and I was like, that's not the most incendiary thing that he's presented. But yeah, if he was like a huge maintainer, that would be hilarious. Yeah. So,
and what does it say about us as people where it's like, if someone is genuinely doing good work, if their good work is diminished or amplified by actions that are orthogonal to the work that they're doing, what does it say about us that we have to know that in order to make those kind of judgments? I mean, that seems crazy.
Well, you're saying us, but I don't think we...
Well, the society.
But see, it's not society. It's a very tiny, tiny group of vocal people who are somehow able to get their way.
That the rest of us don't seem to know how to respond to.
But Linus has, in a lot of ways, capitulated here.
Yes, he is on vacation at this very moment, and so he's agreed to the new code of conduct, which actually is the same code of conduct that Intel has signed off on, and Intel and Facebook, I think, are major contributors to the Linux kernel at this point with staff and that kind of thing. And I think that the list of people that have signed off on the code of conduct there is fairly interesting.
But the problem is ultimately a group of unelected and uninitiated people will become part of the arbitration process when one of these vague rules is violated.
Yeah, the rules are really open-ended.
And now there are some things we should say, just don't just argue one side of this, but you remember the Star Hug Star?
Yeah.
Star Hug Star is super creepy. And
some people don't realize that, though.
If someone finds out you're a girl and you're getting a lot of Star Hug Stars, or, what's equal D? Maybe that's not okay. But this goes so much further than that. I think, and the rape apology thing, I think, is the first best example of. And of course, I don't know what he said, but it certainly wasn't, as overt as I apologize for rapists.
You should go read that, because that's really telling. And I don't know, it's gonna be interesting to see how this shakes out. I think that's why a lot of people can, like, if they read it and take it at face value, there's no freak out. But it can be weaponized, and that's maybe a problem.
And read the Twitter of this girl who champions it. And
the thing that disturbs me about the Twitter is that it seems very us versus them, and it's like,
oh yeah,
who is them?
And the most disturbing thing about it is there is no middle ground. You're either militant with them, or you are the enemy. So relentless reasonableness is out. Oh yeah, that must be destroyed. But it is. It's interesting. It's a lot of drama. If you love the drama, now's the time to get in and maybe join open source. Because you're going to get drama. Now talking a little bit more about business. This is hilarious because how long have we been saying, oh, those Chinese, they've got all the chip making power?
A long time. A lot of people disagreed with us.
But now, Alibaba's saying the opposite.
Yes. Our next story is, who needs the U.S.? Alibaba is going to make their own computer chips. Now, remember, we covered a story a couple of weeks ago where AMD has licensed their Zen intellectual property to Chinese manufacturers, and there are already patches in the Linux kernel for those CPU chips, and Alibaba is going to be one of the first customers. Alibaba is basically the Amazon of China it's more of a business-to-business Amazon, but yeah, they're huge.
And this supports that idea that the internet and the technology world, maybe in general, is breaking up into China's vision and everybody else's vision.
Yeah.
And China wants, they're going to have that walled garden. And if people like, Intel or AMD start saying, hey, we don't want to support you because of your regime, kind of like Google's been forced to do, they don't want that to be a bottleneck. So they say, hey, let's start doing our own thing.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this is that AMD or other companies can just license their intellectual property to Chinese interests. So think about the executive board at Google. If Google's product were more like the Zen intellectual property, they could go to the executives, the business executives could go to executives in China and say, hey, our employees are not really super comfortable. There's like a cultural divide here. So why don't we license you our search technology for you to run on your own stuff, and then we can have a Google China, and we'll call it something else. But it's really running our intellectual property, and you'll funnel money to us for our IP, but you'll control it. And that's probably, honestly, the businesses of the future because of xenophobia and control and all that
Unless
stuff.
A hot war between the U.S. and China breaks out because of the tariffs.
Well, the war between, would not retroactively take it away. So, like, if you were buying chips from the U.S., that's it. You're done. It's good to go. But if you have shared the intellectual property, they could produce their own.
Yeah, of course. They wouldn't recognize those sales agreements at that point.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So there's a strong economic incentive to preserve the peace, which is perhaps better for the continuation of the species anyway.
But also, the fabrication is still going on mostly in that part of the world.
Yes.
Even if it's Taiwan, you think that those airplanes and boats are going to get out of that port? No.
I have a feeling that if there is any kind of like horrible conflict coming, it's going to be a tug of war with China or with Taiwan in the middle, and that's not good for Taiwan.
But I'm saying I think because they are closer,
Yeah.
they just the products are not going to get to us. Maybe we have to go in and give them some freedom.
Taiwan is to Hawaii as Hawaii is to the United States. It's like new Hawaii. I mean Taiwan.
You think we would
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor Taiwan?
Oh, yeah. No, we wouldn't. We wouldn't Pearl Harbor Taiwan. We would probably like Falkland Islands Taiwan.
That'd be tough to maintain though. That's so close to them. That would end up with Taiwan looking like Syria. So it's bad news for tech prices no matter how it goes. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Maybe it's like we can get the scientists out like and for all
Paperclip?
Yeah. But I was thinking about Paperclip for our first story too, because it's like if that kind of thing where it's like we can't let assholes be assholes. It's like it's like we don't like the source of the knowledge. It's like don't look into Operation Paperclip, the U.S. nuclear program, for God's sakes.
Are you suggesting that National Socialists might not conform to the code of conduct?
Well, obviously, we have to shut down all the nuclear facilities in the U.S. because that knowledge is,
we
comes from a poison tree.
Never would have gone to the moon. Just start ignoring the moon.
Neil Armstrong is literally like immediately facing an existential crisis because, code of conduct.
Well, you spoke about Google, and Google certainly has some things going on in China, but they've also got some more things going on here at home. We all know that Google can read our emails. Now, they're off and on about whether or not they're actually actively doing so. But what you might not think about is how they share all that information with third-party plugins.
Yeah, Google defends its Gmail data sharing and gives few details on how the plugins have violated the rules in terms of like sharing your data, because some of these plugins have to be able to read your email to do what they say. And so apparently Google trusted some plugin vendors and it's like, hey, we're going to scan your email for commercial words. And some of those vendors were like, we'll just slurp up everything. So that was apparently not okay.
Not only that, but common plugins are things like helping you find hotels and airline tickets, or maybe rating businesses. So not only do they know what's in the email, but then are they giving that to those third parties whose APIs they're hitting to get the ticket information?
Oh, yeah.
So
turns out the answer is yes.
Yeah, and that
or was.
That certainly goes beyond what Google itself would do, you would think, or would admit at least. So could be a little, I would maintain anytime you use a plugin, browser or whatever, it's been proven over and over, you cannot trust those things.
Well, thank God we've got Tim Cook, who will go to bat for us for the Apple encryption, for the FBI, and protect user privacy, and they'll catch things like that in their tracks before they ever happen.
Well, we got to talk about China, right? Because those poor Chinese citizens, they wake up and immediately there's a number hanging over their head, an invisible number. And it affects everything they do, and all of their stuff is spied on, and they get this magical social score, and it's dystopian, and it would never happen here.
Oops. Apple is going to judge call and email activity and assign users a trust score.
Trust score? Well, that sounds like a social score.
But they confirmed that, and I love the Inquirer subheadline here. It's like, but the firm won't critique your use of the Desperate Slutty Singles app.
So the idea is how often and how you're sending email, texts, and calls. And that gives you a trust score. So if you're just a normie, you're calling your friends, you're text messaging, and just a small pool of people, you're sending emails every once in a while, you can be trusted. But if you're sending like 5,000 emails a day, maybe suspicious.
This, you read between the lines a little bit here. This actually has more to do with the advertising industry than any kind of integrity of data or anything like that, because there are a lot of places that run click farms that have just armies of real devices doing real user-ish type activity, like artificial fingers moving stuff on the screen and interacting with apps, just running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because that kind of a farm can actually make money from the ad revenue that they generate from that activity. It's purely fraudulent, but advertisers have no idea, no way of distinguishing that kind of traffic from fraudulent traffic. Well, this will make Apple users much more valuable to advertisers.
And not to mention the text message scams. So you've got a real phone somewhere, But like you say, it's automated and it's just constantly hitting various numbers. Now they're going to know that those devices are going to have a trust score of near zero.
Yeah.
So they have to cycle through them more often. I don't know if they will show that to the end user. I don't know if that's been decided yet.
Probably not.
But that would be interesting if you might get a warning where you get a text message like, oh, this user texts a lot of people. You know, maybe you should be a little worried. If they offer you nudes, don't click that link.
No, Candy we're such good friends. No.
Don't tell me what to do. She loves me. Well, speaking about Apple, the 10S or XS, if you want to call it that, has been, that's the hot new iPhone that's come out. And maybe not the hit.
Nudes.
Yeah. Maybe
there
not
goes our monetization.
Not the hit they wanted it to be. And iFixit, who is a thorn in the paw of Apple, have done their usual teardown. Doesn't seem like it's much different.
And so these pictures are beautiful from Engadget. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's much different. The battery, honestly, was the most exciting change. They have this weird L-shaped battery, and there are two of them in the larger iPhone, but only one in the smaller one.
Oh, come on, Engadget. You not make that a link?
It's toward the end of the story.
But yeah, it's... oh, here's some more here. Oh, there's the whole thing broken down.
Yeah. So you get the L-shaped batteries. Check it out. That's a weird custom... Apple's making custom batteries. I mean, that's something to get excited about, right?
But for the cost,
yeah,
it is... No. Your value is to get the last generation.
I can get a laptop that's going to last 3 to 5 years, or I can get a phone that will make it maybe a year before the battery starts really sucking.
Well, you can't get an Apple laptop that'll do that. Well, we talked about the SpaceX launch last week, and there was a big question. We knew that the mystery person was Japanese. We didn't know the identity, and now we do.
Yusaku Maezawa. I don't know if I got it correct.
Maezawa?
I don't know. He's going to the moon. He's, I forgot what industry he works in.
Oh, he's clothing. Fashion. I like these bulletproof shields they got around him here. Look, what are you expecting here? So he is a big patron of the arts. He spends a lot of money on art. So essentially, I don't know how many seats you can get on the rockets, but he bought all of them. And he's going to invite artists from around the world. He hasn't announced who yet.
To experience it.
They're going to have a free trip, 100% free. And when they get back, he's going to commission them all to make some sort of art based on their moon trip.
Based on the experience. Isn't this like one of the Bond films where like the guy's going to try to cause a super caldera to wipe out all the population of the world, and the only people that survive were the people that he handpicked to repopulate the species?
Moonraker? Is that the one you're talking about? That's the only one I know that's about the moon. But how are they going to do that with
the moon? I don't think the moon was involved. They were just, it was like a, eccentric rich guy gathers up, people that he wants to survive while plotting the death of everyone else.
Oh, okay. Well, I think this would kind of be the reverse. These people are far more likely to be killed.
Yeah, sort of the reverse, the reverse Dr. No, if you will.
Now, the big question is, will Musk go? And he's still deliberating whether or not he will go on the moon trip.
But if there's an accident, how will the world survive without his genius and grace?
That's the question. You're going to lose a fashion mogul, 6 or 7 huge artists, and Musk all at the same. Can we, as a species, can we take that heartbreak?
When they're digging up the remnants of our situation 3,000 years from now, there's going to be an obelisk in the middle of some pyramids where it's like, this is the day that the Earth's culture died. Can we send Kanye?
He would be an artist, right?
That would be something to look for. It would work out either way in that case.
Well, I thought we were going to get away with a positive week of Tesla news because we got, if you count that SpaceX story, that's
good news.
That's positive. And then we have another positive Tesla story, but this one crept in, and you gotta put it in there, right?
This is the same one, isn't it?
Oh, did we do this last?
We did.
Oh,
there was you had another one though.
It's this sort of counted toward both business and so it's all good news in this episode at least. Look at that equal and opposite reaction right there. Boom. So they get a 5-star rating.
So nice. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's a really good crash rating. It is hard to get a 5-star rating, and actually the criteria for getting a 5-star rating changes Because like what got 5 stars in the 1980s is not even like a half a star now.
I guess it's a good thing that none of them burst into flame.
Yeah,
Because I
that's
assume they do that with fully charged batteries, right?
they would have to. Yeah. I wonder if a discharge battery is actually more dangerous. Well, not in terms of energy density, but in terms of like, because lithium batteries get weird when they're deep discharged.
Maybe they have to do it both ways. Wonder if they thought of that. I bet they didn't.
They probably didn't.
It's the National Highway Transport Safety Authority, whatever TSA means.
Well, this is not a good news Tesla
Oh,
story.
that's right. Well,
It's a lull. This one should be a nonsense.
I don't think it'll affect the company. It might.
No,
It probably shouldn't.
it shouldn't.
But I think this was inevitable, right? Is there any chance this didn't happen based on the recent events?
So Musk kind of dared him to, who was like, well, I said he was a pedo and he didn't sue me, so he must be a pedo. And he's like, okay, well, he filed suit. But they're using a firm out of Atlanta and they only want $75,000, which doesn't seem enough.
Well, I think that speaks to this guy's, like, he's doing it to prove a point and to protect his name. And he's not being opportunistic. I think that helps his case.
That's probably true.
Because he could have gone easily 8 digits.
Yeah.
Easily.
The law firm that he hired is probably going to cost $75,000, so that may be why he set that.
Well, they'll make Musk pay the legal fees, probably. That'd probably be more expensive than the...
Yeah, the $75,000.
So if you're not hip to that story, Musk sort of tripled down.
Remember the cave situation with the kids in the cave?
He used the words child rapist in the last iteration.
Well, there goes. He's going to have to be ejected from the company. It's a violation of the code of conduct.
He's a child rapist apologist. And so that was maybe the last straw. Now he's also suing him in England.
Oh, but they haven't announced the terms of that yet.
Maybe that's where he's going for the money. Because that's probably where his bank is, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to have to do overseas banking. That'll be interesting. And maybe some bad... I think we kind of already knew this, but it's officially been announced that Saudi Arabia, who owns 5% of Tesla, or 4% or something like that, is also investing in a rival.
Now, on the story where it was like Tesla's maybe going private, wasn't some Saudi Arabian investors maybe the source of that?
They were going to be the bulk of it, I think.
So they're investing $1 billion in a potential Tesla rival to hedge their bets. So you think maybe this investment is because they see instability in leadership at Tesla?
Could be, but they have announced publicly that, all of their wealth is oil. And they've seen a huge drop in oil price in the recent years. So they're trying to diversify away from oil. Eventually, that's not going to be... we're always going to need it, but we're not going to need it on the scale that we need it right now. Although, we also can't replace cars at scale with current electric technology.
Yeah, that's true. There's not enough rare earth metals.
Yeah. The better batteries could solve that, but do you gamble on that?
I want an electric battery that's made out of cheap carbon and hydrogen.
Maybe we'll have that someday. Saudi
Carbon's
Arabia.
good at storing electrons. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, make it. Listen, you do that, we'll retire.
Technology news. Now we're switching gears.
Well, hardware news. And if you're a laptop gamer, maybe some good news for you.
Vega is coming to gaming laptops with the Ryzen 7 2800H and Ryzen 5 2600H. Now, the H here is even more low power, I think, is sort of what I gather. But I'm not 100% sure. I want to get one to play with it. I want to get one and see what it does. I'm super impressed by the dies that they use in the 2990 are some of the lowest power 8-core versions of the dies. So you can get upwards of 4 gigahertz on like 1.15 volts, 1.2 volts, which is very low in my opinion. And so basically putting those in laptops, underclock them a little, that should be a great chip because it doesn't, at those low voltages, like around 1 volt, it doesn't produce hardly any heat.
But it also doesn't do ray tracing, which means it's useless.
Obviously. It's RTX off in the permanent off position. So obviously.
Well, do you think they're maybe going to use some ray tracing for MRI images?
This concerns me because it's like NVIDIA researchers generate synthetic brain MRI images for AI research. But like if they're synthetic images, then how has the signal to noise ratio for those MRI images useful to train the AI?
It is interesting because you think the problem is you want to train your adversarial generating AI, right? So the way that you train it is you got to feed it an initial set of images. But we actually don't have enough images of brain tumors. You got plenty of pictures of good brains, not a lot of pictures of bad brains. So this AI attempts to take the good brain pictures and the bad brain pictures and use that adversarial generator to make fake bad brains. Deep fakes?
Deep fakes,
really
for brain
deep
tumors.
fakes.
About 3 inches behind your eye socket, deep fakes.
So yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, it's something as serious as brain scans.
Yeah.
Do we really want to trust fake images for that?
This one's not a real brain. This one is a real brain. This one's not a real brain. This one's a real brain. I don't know. I guess that's why I didn't, become a doctor or whatever. It's like, I don't understand how this would be super useful except for just as an academic exercise.
Well, I
this is what
imagine
we did.
as a super pre-screening step, you might catch some people that you wouldn't normally for a second look. But if you get a lot of false positives, are you wasting time and money looking at those? I guess if you save one person from brain cancer because you get it early, how many false positives is that worth?
Yeah. What happens when you can get it in the Apple headband? Like, you get the Apple Watch, then you get the Apple Workout headband, and then it's like, brain structure abnormality detected. Go see a doctor.
So you mean when I look at headlines about the code of conduct and
Ding, ding, ding.
I feel like I don't
Ding, ding,
belong
ding.
in this world?
You're having a heart attack. Seek medical attention.
It's like, is there something wrong with my brain that I think that everything about this is wrong? And then they can send a team to pacify me.
They'll fly in little tiny microscopic robots that literally rewire the structure of your brain so you no longer care about that.
Well, Xiaomi, is that how you pronounce that?
It's
Xiaomi?
I knew how to pronounce this and I've forgotten.
Xiaomi?
No, I don't think that's right, but that's fine.
Xiaomi?
They're putting it's a Chinese phone company. They're putting ads in the settings menu of its phones. And
But
they're
they-
like, I don't understand.
Well, they kind of advertised as that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, these are cheap ass phones. We're selling them to you for less than they're worth. You're going to look at some ads.
Okay.
People are upset because they're in the settings menu, which, now they run a specialized version of Android that they have severely molested to make it show ads in the settings menu.
And also report all of your stuff.
Yeah, they're spying on you for sure. But you can buy those same phones at a higher price with regular Android. So I think you know what you're getting. Amazon does this.
I like how The Verge is like, no, this is like a really terrible thing. And it's like, no, you signed up for this.
Yeah, and I think the Amazon one has like microtransactions where you can turn the ads off for some amount of time or forever, which is probably not a terrible way to do it.
Also in the news for the big iPhone reveal is Huawei. Huawei trolled people waiting in line at Apple by giving them a battery pack to go with their new iPhone.
They got a picture of it here. It's great. It says, you'll need this. Oh, this store doesn't have it.
The Huawei phones that just came out the same week or the week before the Apple phones, those have a higher battery capacity and have been tested to have a better runtime than the Apple iPhone.
These people are waiting in line in China for iPhones. And this guy is from Huawei. And these little battery packs here, it says, here, you'll need this. Because get it, they're waiting a long time. And the batteries on their phones are not good. Pretty smart,
amazing
smart
troll.
guerrilla marketing. And, people, that's the kind of advertising that people are happy to get because you're giving them a free product.
I love our next story. I've got the perfect intro.
Okay, go for it.
Well, no. I mean, it'll be after you read the headline.
Well, I'm saying we have heavily questioned whether this is ever going to be successful. And that is the idea of games as a service. No, light consoles, basically shells that communicate with a big gaming server that serves you your game.
So game streaming's latency problems will be over in a few years, CEO says. Zelnick also says closed systems walls are coming down for cross-platform play. So I would counter that headline with a headline of our own 2 internet bozos decry CEO for not understanding just how poor the infrastructure is in America, Australia, and the UK.
Well, we looked at those stats about rural broadband, and it just ain't going to work.
It's like the latency. Like, I live in a nice apartment building in downtown Manhattan, and the latency to get from my apartment in this high rise to the server cluster in the basement is plenty fast enough for game streaming. And it's like, but rural Nebraska, a little worse.
They did. Now, Microsoft, when they talked about this, they talked about doing 2 versions.
Yes.
You could buy the whole console, and it would be the usual $500 or $600, or you could get just like the shell console, which would load things that needed immediate processing. So if it was a fighting game, then collision detection would happen locally, and everything else would go over. And that's probably a better idea. But they're talking about you're simply going to have online services that send you your games, which, as we learned last week with Nintendo's new online service, there's a lot of hidden barbs in that deal.
Yes.
And of course, with Apple deleting movies last week, are they going to delete your games? Are they going to delete your saves? What if you hit a rough month and you can't make the subscription price? Does everything go away?
It's like when they turn off your electricity, when you can't afford your electricity. It's like you got to pay your bill, and there's a re-hookup fee. And
something might have happened to your save games. Don't let that happen again. That kind of thing. Well, another analogy with Nintendo, who have made so much money doing this. Sony saw that and said, we got to get in this game.
Sony announces the PlayStation Classic, a $100 mini PS1. So the thing I don't understand about this is that it comes with 20 games, but it actually is not super hard to get a PS1 still, whereas it's basically impossible to get old school NES. Like, you have to get a clone system.
And this is emulation.
Yeah.
This is not, there's no discs involved here. So, again, I don't know if a Raspberry Pi can handle PS1 level, but a cheap computer could.
Yeah.
A very cheap video card could deal with this.
Literally anything of the last 5 years.
And instead of 20 games, you get a lot more. So, $100, a little steep for 20 games, I think.
Yeah.
They have not revealed whether or not you will be able to load more games onto this eventually. Nintendo does not add that to theirs.
No.
Which is...
Well, there's a way to unlock it, and then it's...
But then you're just putting ROMs on it.
Yeah.
So, which is what they're doing.
Oops.
Don't kid yourself. And maybe I was not a fan of any of these games, but it is kind of sad to see another video game studio shutting down.
Telltale is shutting down. Now, Telltale, they came out of LucasArts, I think, when LucasArts packed up. And they're shutting down with layoffs because not enough people are interested in these games. They did The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and some other games. I actually played the Back to the Future games. They were okay.
Well, there were video games about those intellectual properties other than these. These were like the quote-unquote adventure games, which didn't require a lot of adventuring.
Yeah.
It was basically just telling you a story in game format. I think there were some decisions you could make to affect the outcome, but mostly it was just an interactive story.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that can compete.
I would love to get brass tacks on like costs and number of employees and how it broke down and that sort of thing, because I could see managing if you were going to build these this way, I could see that building it maybe a different way could have maybe done it with less people and less overhead, and maybe it would have been profitable.
Well, I don't know, because one of the big things that have come out of this, a lot of the former employees, the employees were told, they were given no warning. They were told one day, they came to work and they were told, be out of the building in 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, yeah. And it was at like lunchtime on a Friday.
Yeah. So a lot of those people have gone to Twitter and they've said, I was putting in 80-hour weeks. I wasn't being paid for most of that. And I was told over and over, if the company's successful, you will be too. And it never happened, and now I'm out of a job. And so a lot of people are sort of decrying that, what we talked about with the IBM thing.
Yeah.
That idea of young, desperate people will put up with almost anything. And here's an example where they got burned terribly for doing it.
Yeah, it's too bad, because I think I think there is a market for LucasArts style adventure games. These were not exactly that.
Yeah, I think they'd have to make it more. But I don't think the current generation, LucasArts wasn't competing with the kind of games that these guys are.
Well, and I think the phone, I think they might have missed the boat on making things like more phone oriented, because the like Day of the Tentacle with instant save, like you could just close it and come back to it, and Full Throttle and the Indiana Jones. I mean, the Indiana Jones LucasArts games are amazing. You should download Scum VM right now and go and find a copy of the go and find a legit copy of the like Full Throttle, and there's 2 Indiana Jones games that are really good, and there's a couple that are not as good, and Day of the Tentacle and
that's illegal.
Sam and Max, and play those on your phone. They work great.
That's illegal, and we cannot condone it.
Well, you can if you own it, it's probably okay.
Go to a yard sale, find one of those old CDs.
I still own all. I've got the talkie. I have actually the disc version of Maniac Mansion, which I like so much. I also bought the talkie version, which is crazy for me at that age, because that was a lot of money. But
when you did that, wasn't it weird that none of the voices sounded like what you had in your head?
Yeah, it really was.
Well, I think this headline's a little hyperbolic, maybe. But
it's definitely hyperbolic.
It's dystopian, but when you read into it, it's not as bad as it sounds like.
John Hancock will include fitness tracking in all life insurance policies. So, yeah, fitness tracker to track you for life insurance, and you get a better rate and whatever. Yeah, or you can do business with them.
But it doesn't sound like you're necessarily required to hit certain goals or even share your data with them.
Yeah.
Basically, they're just giving you a fitness tracker when you sign up.
You must do this.
Now, if you share your data with them, right now, the way it's set up, you'll get gift cards if you
meet goals,
hit certain goals. Yeah. Like if you burn so many calories one day, when I think some of them are restaurant gift cards, which is like, what's the message here? What are you sending me a Panera gift card after I did like 40 minutes of cardio? What is this? But yeah, they will not have any traditional life insurance policies without this. And it could be someday we see a world where to get life insurance, you got to prove to them that you're doing your part to stay alive.
Wow.
That's one of the biggest life insurers in America. Oh, no. A lot of people comment, it's like, why are you using the AdBlock Plus? We've been fighting the AdBlock thing for so long, and then we're like, oh, okay, we'll do it.
If you want to repeat this experiment, turn your ad blocker off and just go load our one tabs and watch as your browser crashes.
With uBlock or PicoBlock, however you want to say it, the ad blocker will catch this, but not with AdBlock Plus. But anyway,
we're trying to do the toe in the water ad blocker, like not the super effective one, just the light.
But we did manage to read this, and this has to do with Amazon putting fake packages on their trucks
to catch dishonest drivers. This is genius. It's pure genius.
Yeah. So when the idea here is that this fake package is just pure nonsense. It is not in the Amazon system at all. And of course, the Amazon system, they scan them. You get real-time updates, what's happening with your package. So at the end of the day, the driver is going to be left with a package that cannot be scanned and cannot be delivered. So what do? Do you just pop that in your pocket, or do you take it back to the distribution center? And that's what Amazon wants to find out.
Oh, Amazon, you're so wily.
They estimate their shrinkage is, in the billions, because so many, such a huge business. And they have said they have already caught drivers who they didn't say they were stealing. They said they were not acting honestly.
I don't have it. I don't know. What are you talking about?
So pro criminal tip, if you're an Amazon driver, don't steal packages right now. And Walmart. Now this is certainly a dystopian future, right?
This story really juxtaposes with the story that we had last time about the army going after VR. So Walmart is also going after VR, but they're going for Oculus Go.
Walmart's VR is going to be so much better. How sad is that? Yeah, this thing is going to train you. So Walmart's got all these new programs. Like remember the one we were talking about where the online prep is going to be a totally new store.
Yeah.
So you don't know what that store looks like, so you can't train for it. So they just train them in VR.
It's going to be a 10-pack of Marines the Army can just order directly from Walmart that have been trained in VR ahead of the mission.
so they can stop shoplifters with extreme prejudice.
No, I was thinking it's like we'll send them to Kandahar or something, and the Walmart people are experiencing like a high pressure like a restock situation, but in reality they're actually exterminating the orphanage or whatever.
Could be. Now we often go to O'Charlie's. If you're not familiar with O'Charlie's, it's a restaurant famous for their chicken tenders, and we love our chicken tenders, so we go there a lot. And some days you can get free pie at O'Charlie's. And O'Charlie's pie has okay filling, but the container wrapped around it is disgusting.
That's kind of like this. This is a new Linux distro specifically designed for Windows that has come to the Microsoft store, but it costs $20.
But you can get it for $10 right now. This is designed to be specifically useful within Windows and take away some of the pains of setting Linux up to run within Windows. So this out of the box should be everything set up correctly for all your devices and all that kind of stuff.
You can even run GUI programs this way with X forwarding. And it does away with systemd, which actually helps it run a little bit better on Windows, ironically.
So yeah, if you like pie with terrible crust, go to O'Charlie's or download that from the Windows Store for only $20 or $10 for the time being.
Now, last week we reported that Windows was popping up when you were installing other browsers. And I think we reported last week also that by the time the thing came out that Microsoft had reversed course. Well, CNET's got an article that has more information about what prompted Microsoft to do that. And it was a quote-unquote edge promotion.
Yeah. I don't think this is rolled out to the normie builds yet. But in one of the test builds somebody got a hold of, they noticed this was no longer a thing.
Yeah.
So it seems like they heard the feedback.
Oh, silly. It looks like you're trying to install Firefox. You don't need that. You got Edge.
CNET is quick to point out that Chrome, if you visit Chrome with a user agent from another browser, they also harass you. Not quite as bad as 3 different points and one where they try to trick you with a blue button and a grayed out button. But we all know that the browsers are in a bitter feud with one another.
And our last story, it's a great day for humanity because Japan's Hayabusa 2 mission has landed on an asteroid. And we have pictures from, it was touch and go there for a minute because they landed on the asteroid and maybe it was kind of a hard landing and the asteroid rotated away from where the signal would be transmitted. And so we didn't hear from the space probes for a while. But scroll down, the picture, it's like there's a picture from the surface of the asteroid that's really far away.
Now, I could have told them all of that ahead of time without any of this experience because I've seen the movie Armageddon. And all of that happened in that movie. That was a perfect example.
Where's the crazy guy with the eyes?
The Russian?
Yeah.
Well, this didn't stop at the space station.
Oh.
So they couldn't pick up the crazy Russian.
With the drill, the penchant for drilling.
No, he was the only guy that wasn't part of the drill team. He was just the guy on the ISS. It was a what's the guy's name that blows up all the stuff in movie? He's famous for explosions. Oh man, I can't think of that. But they blow up everything in that movie, including the International Space Station.
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay the space station.
That was when Michael Bay. Well, if you have like a curve of Michael Bay in his prime, that would be at the top. And there'd be a little explosion to show that was the peak.
Well, the rest of the technology nonsense, you're going to have to join us on Friday.
We got some depressing security and a little bit of nonsense. But you got to watch the security because you got to know what to watch out for, right? It's a necessary evil. And we'll see you then.